Bienvenidos. Hoy vamos a hablar de verbos de ER e IR. So let's talk about ER and IR verbs and how to conjugate them, specifically in the present tense today. We'll also touch upon the present progressive. So as a recap, conjugation. Remember that we have infinitives such as hablar, to talk. So again, this is what we call an infinitive. That's an important term to know. That means that the ending of the verb is still attached, in this case, AR. Now this, again, in the infinitive form means to talk. Doesn't make much sense if I put it with a person. I to talk? No. So I need to conjugate. I need to change that ending to reflect who's doing the action and when. So this is the stem. I take off the ending, the AR, and I'm left with the stem. The stem goes in my conjugation chart. So in this case, hablo. Then I add my endings that are unique per each subject. So I've got hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, habláis, accent on the A since it's an AR verb, and hablan. These are my endings for the conjugations of a regular AR verb. Now I have to make those endings happen to get a conjugated verb. The other thing I need to remember is that each of these translates three ways. Yo hablo could translate as I talk, I do talk, or I am talking. All of those are possibilities with these normal conjugations. They all come from this right here. Yo hablo. Now, what about the present progressive? Remember, we use that to express what's happening now. It's used for emphasis, so it's used sparingly. So, I'm studying right now. It has two parts in this formula, a star plus present participle, or in other words, gerund. That's just fancy for the verb in ing. So we start with the conjugation of a star. You'd have to have that. That's how you get the I am, you are, he is, we are, etc. Now to get the ing form, the present participle of the verb. Well, we already learned for AR verbs, so let's take hablar. You get rid of the ending, and to get the ing, you add ando instead. So the full form would be hablando. Now we can't just use that by itself because it doesn't make sense. If you say yo hablando, it's I talking, not I am talking. So we need the star first and then the present participle. So yo estoy hablando. I am talking. Much better. So we need both parts. And again, this is used sparingly because it's used for emphasis of an action happening right now. So we've got the I from the yo, the am from estoy, and hablando gets us the ing. Let's move on to ER and IR verbs. These are the other two types of Spanish infinitives. So how do you know if they're an ER and IR verb? Well, you have to look at the ends of the verbs. So aprender is an ER verb, it ends in ER, whereas vivir is an IR verb because it ends in IR. Now aprender means to learn, and vivir means to live. Remember, the to is included because they're infinitives. Now, how do we conjugate these? Well, the process is the same. We get rid of the ending. We're left with the stem, so aprend in this case. We fill all our conjugation boxes there. Now we need to add the unique endings for an ER verb. So those are going to be o, es, hemos, eis, accent over the e because it's an ER verb, en. So those are our endings for an ER verb. I learn, you learn, he, she learns, you learn, we learn, y'all in Spain learn, they or you learn. So those endings get us those versions. Remember that the ER disappears and becomes these green endings here. Easy peasy, we just have to memorize it. So it's a new set of endings that have to be memorized. Now what about vivir? Let's do the same thing here. We get rid of the IR and we're left with the stem, so vive. So we're going to add that to all our boxes. Then we need to add our IR endings. They're almost the same as ER, but not in vosotros or nosotros. So o, es, hemos, notice that's different. Is, accent on the I because it's an IR verb, en. So again, the green ones are the ones they have in common, but then in IR, the nosotros and vosotros are distinctly different. So again, we just need to memorize that these endings go with these conjugations. Conjugating is important so that we can be able to say exactly what we mean, who's doing an action, and when that action is happening. Now, just as a recap, the same rules for AR verbs apply here. So when we conjugate yo vivo, for example, it translates 3 ways. I live, I do live, and I am living. All of those are possible, even the ing. But when we want to really emphasize that something is happening right now, we can still use the present progressive. But now our gerunds are going to change a little bit because we're using ER and IR verbs. Remember that this is to really express what's happening right now, and it's used sparingly since it's for emphasis. So as a recap, remember our formula is star plus the present participle. So we conjugate a star into the present tense. And how do we form this present participle? Well, it's going to change. So we get a star first. We find our ER or IR verb that we want to use. So let's take vivir again. I take off the ending, just like I did before with AR verbs. So IR is going to disappear, and I'm going to add endo now to get the ing. So the ing form, the gerund or present participle, is going to be viviendo. The same process works for ER verbs. So the ER comes off the infinitive. We add endo, and then it becomes comiendo. So we take a form of a star, so such as yo estoy. Then we use comiendo for our present participle. And then finish the sentence, una ensalada. So we're really emphasizing that action is happening right now by choosing to use the present progressive tense. And again, you need to use both parts, a star and then the present participle, to be able to use this tense completely. All right, so that's an overview of how to conjugate ER and IR verbs in the present tense and how to use them in the present progressive. Make sure to practice. This takes memorization. You should just know these endings off the top of your head. Buena suerte. Adios.